Now I'm pleased to introduce a fellow scholar and tonight's student speaker. Savannah Est is a Mary Jane Bodine Scholar. A senior from Lake St. Louis, Missouri, Savannah is majoring in biomedical engineering. You may recall a story last year about a project Savannah and her classmates tackled. Working with physicians and scientists from Washington University School of Medicine and Shriners Hospital, Savannah and a team of BME students designed and created a 3D printed prosthetic arm for a teenager. These are the types of experiences and opportunities in which we as scholarship recipients are able to take part in. Savannah, thank you for being with us tonight.
So thank you again to WashU for hosting this awesome dinner, and to all the students and donors and faculty and staff who have joined us tonight. This evening I'm honored to be sharing with you my personal story of how I came to be in this room today and how both WashU and my scholarship have helped me get here. Like Harold said, my name is Savannah Est and I'm a senior in biomedical engineering. I am a McKelvey undergraduate research scholar as well as a Mary Jane Bodine scholar. I am from Lake St. Louis, Missouri, and I've lived in Missouri basically all of my life. My interest in engineering and science started at a very early age. I've always been a big reader, and growing up, my favorite place to be was the St. Charles County Library branch that was right next to my house. I ended up checking out so many books so frequently that I found out by the time I was in middle school that the librarians at my branch were actually betting with each other on whether or not I was actually reading the books that I was checking out. It turns out that I was, in fact, reading all of these books, and what I was reading was beginning to shape my passions and my motivations for my career and the rest of my life. My favorite genre, hands down, is science fiction. George Orwell, Ray Bradbury, Isaac Asimov, you name it, and I've either read it, watched it, or it's on my reading list. The thing that really drew me, and still draws me to this genre, is how imaginative and how visionary all of the authors are. Science fiction has predicted technological advancement years before products are actually created, and it outlines how society can benefit from these advancements. For me, engineering is about taking a wish from science fiction and making it a reality. I got my first taste of this in high school when I quit the soccer team and the cheerleading squad so I could participate in a pilot research class. I was paired up with a researcher at Danforth Plant Science Center in Ladue, which is also associated with Washington University, and my first engineering project was to build organic solar cells from fruit juice that could power a calculator. I spent about 6 months taking blackberries and mashing them up and trying to make electricity. I ended up absolutely loving it, and I was invited to attend the International Science and Engineering Fair in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. When my school couldn't afford to fly me to the international conference, my teacher, she was awesome, her name is Mrs. Berenson, pitched in her own money and rented a car to drive myself and the other student for 12 hours to the fair. When I got to Pittsburgh, I remember walking into the largest conference hall I had ever seen. From wall to wall, it was lined with 1,500 posters from students from all over the world who were just like me. I remember walking along the aisles of posters the first presentation day and just being utterly amazed at the crazy inventions and ideas that all of the students like me had been working on. It all culminated on the very first night when I attended a lecture from a futurist at Intel Corporation. His job was to predict where scientific advancement and the technological economy would gravitate in order to advise Intel which future technologies it should invest in. This lecture was a combination of the science fiction that I loved and the engineering and research that I was beginning to experience. His message to us as high school students was very simple. It was just to go and create because we are the future. I realized then that the imaginative world I knew in my reading wasn't all that different than the real world. Until this point, I had viewed my project as a fun after-school activity and not necessarily a career. When I returned home, this was when I made the decision that I wanted to be an engineer. Fast forward 2 years later and 2 science fairs later, and here I am on the School of Engineering and Applied Science tour at Washington University. I distinctly remember our group stopping in Whitaker Atrium, which if you haven't been there, it's this room and it's open and it's 3 stories up and you can see all of the floors and all of the rooms on the floors all the way to the ceiling. I remember tilting my head up to look at these 3 just giant floors and hearing the tour guide say that they were filled wall to wall with research labs. This was just a big, nerdy dream for me come true. It was exactly what I was looking for in a university. I knew I was passionate about research, and I wanted to go to a place that would give me the resources I needed. However, coming from the St. Louis area, I knew there was no way I would be able to afford this place. No one in my high school that I knew of had ever attended WashU. And even if I got in, I wasn't about to ask my parents to put a second mortgage on their house so that I could go to WashU when I had a full ride at a state university nearby. So when I got that letter that actually comes in an email nowadays, I had somehow made it into Washington University. I was thrilled, but it didn't really last very long. My parents knew how badly I wanted to go here, and I felt guilty even asking them to consider it. One of the most touching moments I've had in my life was when my dad sat me down and said he would do whatever it took to make WashU happen. You can imagine my disbelief when I received my financial aid statement in the mail later that month. I had been awarded a scholarship through WashU that covered more than we had ever hoped. While I wanted to attend WashU for its resources and its biomedical engineering program, it was ultimately the scholarship that swayed my choice to go here. Since then, I have tried to make the absolute most of my experience here, and I have participated at 3 research labs at WashU and 2 elsewhere for summer internships, including one in Aachen, Germany. In that time, I have enjoyed being involved in several projects, and I want to highlight one particularly life-changing experience. Even though I had gotten an incredibly generous tuition scholarship through the university, I knew I needed to be paid for any summer internship activities I chose to pursue in order to pay for housing and food costs. I wanted to continue doing research, so I applied for the McKelvey Undergraduate Research Scholarship that would pay for my summer research. I lived at home to save money and commuted the hour to hour and a half drive, depending on traffic, to the medical school each day to work at the Washington University Institute for Minimally Invasive Surgery Biomaterials Lab. As part of this experience, I worked on a project to 3D print prosthetic arms for kids. This project had started as a senior design project right here in the biomedical engineering department at WashU. And the summer after my freshman year, I worked on a second motor-powered prosthetic prototype for a patient we had already been working with. By the end of the summer, I had completed a second prototype, and we were ready to meet our patient. Our first patient was a 14-year-old girl who has since received 3 different robotic arm prototypes. She lost her arm in a boating accident and was constantly looking to improve her prosthetic options. My team members and I developed a patient relationship with her and her mother, and when she wanted to choose the color of her arm and put a monogram on it, I was happy to alter the design with the other undergraduate on my team to fit what she wanted. This soon became a popular choice for our other pediatric patients, and I began involving my roommate, actually, who's studying illustration at WashU, to draw the pictures they requested so I could incorporate them into the 3D model. We drew everything from dinosaurs to cartoon characters, fish, you name it, we could put it on an arm. I have since developed a relationship with the 2 patients and families I worked with. And it's been a real pleasure to watch the girls grow over the years. It's also been personally thrilling to me to see the older girl start to have an interest in science. And I love hearing about her favorite math classes and what she was learning about in science every time she came to visit the lab. Every time she would come to visit, we would 3D print these little sort of toys just to test our printer. And she would say, oh, this is a simple machine, or I learned this in physics, or something like that. It was really cool to kind of listen to her. She's in high school now. And she would ask us, how does the arm work? How are you 3D printing? And it was really fun to teach her a little bit about what she was using. So I originally chose biomedical engineering because I had an interest in engineering and biology, but until this specific experience, I don't think I really fully comprehended how significant my impact could be on individuals as a biomedical engineer. I also want to make it clear now that your gift as donors for my scholarship is not just benefiting me, but it's benefiting all of these people who I have interacted with and all of the projects I have been a part of throughout my career. After this project, I knew there was nothing else I would be happy doing with my career. In the future, I'm planning on continuing my love for science and research by applying to biomedical engineering PhD programs, even one here at WashU. And I want to continue to a postdoctorate in academia where I can mentor others and work with students. By the end of my career, I want to have contributed to bringing the world a few steps closer to the universe of science fiction that brought me into this field in the first place. Lastly, I want to thank not only the incredible generous sponsors we have here today for giving me this opportunity, but also to my peers and the faculty that are here tonight for always supporting me. Specifically, I'd like to personally thank Jack and Mary Jane Bodine for their contribution to my projects and my scholarship. Like I said before, I never thought I would be able to attend WashU. And even 4 years later, every time I walk through Brookings, I'm reminded of what a privilege and a dream it is to be here, and I just want to thank you all for your gift.